Boker Tov. We're going to start today's Daf Yomi. It's Kesubos Samach Zayin, Kesubos 67. Today's Daf Yomi, we're going to start on 67a, 10 lines from the top, and we're going to continue a discussion which we were having yesterday. What did we discuss yesterday? We discussed that a woman, when she brings assets, her dowry, into the ksuva, into the marriage. When a woman brings her dowry into the marriage, she can bring into a few different types of assets. One asset is currency. If she brings in the currency in, then the husband has to pay back the amount. On the termination of the marriage, he has to pay back if he dies or divorces her. He has to pay back the amount plus half the amount, meaning with sometimes called a third of rabbinic literature. So let's say he brought in $100, he'd have to pay back $150. Whereas if it was a asset, a movable asset, then we say that we don't really trust the valuation if the valuation was made in the wedding hall on the day of the marriage. So he has to pay back the asset minus 20%, either because we assume the valuation was done too high, not a fair valuation, or else because the assumption is that the asset depreciated through use over time. So now today's Daf Yomi, there's really two completely separate parts of today's Daf Yomi. The first part is dealing with this, and then the second part deals with charity. And we have a lot of powerful agadata about charity, a lot of powerful teachings about tzedakah. So Amar Rav Shimon bar Abba, Amar Rav Yochanan, Hechnisa lo zahav. Let's say she brought into the marriage gold. She brings gold into the marriage. So Rav Shimon bar Abba says the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan's teaching is if she brings in gold, shamanoso. We don't do either of those things. She doesn't have to give back. He doesn't have to give back the money plus 50%, and he doesn't have to give back the money minus 20%. But rather, we give the exact amount. Bareu kashava. We evaluate it, and he pays back the amount. Not 20% less and not 50% more or 1/3 more. Mace face, so the Gemara challenges from a brisa. Azav, if he brings in gold or zahav, either way, different versions. Hareu kekelim, it is like utensils. So, meaning to say, presumably, doesn't that mean what isn't the brisa saying that it's like utensils? Ma'alav kekelim shel kesef, isn't it like a silver utensil? Depachti, which is diminished by 1/5, and so therefore, since it's diminished by 1/5, that's what he pays back because it depreciates or the valuation was too high, and so this is a contradiction to Rabbi Yochanan who says that the gold you pay the exact valuation. Gemara says no, it means kekelim shel zahav. It means like a gold utensil, below pachti, which does not diminish. And Gemara says, well, in Cain, kekelav mi ba'aleh. Well, then it shouldn't have used the expression it's like utensils. It should say it's like its utensil. It should say kekelav. Gold is like its utensil, and you pay the exact valuation. Va'o Tanya. Now we have a further question. What's the further question? The further question is as follows. So we try to question it again. What's this next question? The next question is zahav harei kekelim. So the Braita says that gold is like utensils. Dinari zahav, whereas gold and coins harei kiksafim. They are like money, meaning to say gold is like utensil. Well, presumably based upon what Rabbi Yochanan was saying, that it's the exact valuation, whereas the gold coins are like money, and you have to pay back an extra 50%. Whereas Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says the makom shenagu shalola portam, in a case where they had to practice not to use it as currency, shamanosan vareim b'shavehem. We evaluate them, and they are equivalent to their valuation. So the Gemara says, let's break down this price. So Rashbag ahai, when Rashbag says you in a place where it's not used as currency, you break it down and use it as its valuation. What's he referring to? Ilema seifa, if you say he's referring to the latter clause, where it says that the gold coins are like money. Mikal the Tanakama Savar, that means to say that the Tanakama will be at the position of fil b'makom shenagu shalola partan. Even in a place where you don't use it as currency, you view it as currency and give an extra 20%. Why? Hello, Nafki, she can't use it as currency. So that doesn't make sense. Must be Al-Lava Reisha. Must be Rosh Gamliel says that they are their value. He's referring to the first clause, to the gold utensils. that they are in a place where they are used as currency, that in a place where they're not used as currency, we evaluate it. And so therefore, Rashbag is referring to the Sefer. We call it Tana Kama Savar. That must be the Tana Kama's position. Afil b'makom shenagu shelo fartan. That even in a place where they're not used as their currency, that they get their valuation. But halo nafki. But why? They can't be used. They can't be used as currency, so they should be getting less. It must be a lava resha. So it must be that we go back and see Rabbi Shimon Gamliel when he says this idea that in a place where they don't use it as currency, we give it their valuation. He's referring to the first clause, which says gold is like a utensil. It's like a utensil. My kalim, what does that mean? Kalim shel kesef is like a silver utensil, which depreciates. And Rashbag Omer Areu Kedinar shel zahav. So, and he says, no, he's like a gold coin in a place where they don't use a gold coin as currency. But anyway, we see from here that according to the Tanakama, he's saying that the gold utensils are like silver utensils, which depreciate. And this is a car where therefore you only pay back 20%, their value minus 20%. So this therefore is a contradiction against what Rabbi Yochanan said. So the Gemara says, no, la'olam ha'sefer. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that in a place where they didn't have the custom not to exchange it, we do it for its value. He's referring to the latter coins, i.e., the gold coins. That's what Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is referring to. Dinar zav are like money, and it says in a place where they don't exchange it, it's referring to the nafki al yedei atzchak. It's typically not used as currency. The Tanakhama is a position, given the nafki, since it is sometimes used as currency. She wants it, and so therefore we give her the extra valuation after the marriage terminates. Whereas Rashbag says, since it's not the typical currency, it's used only with difficulty. She doesn't really. It's not a advantage to her, and so therefore we treat it as a regular utensil, and she just gets the actual valuation. Or or alternatively, the whole brisa kula rashbagi. The whole brisa is rashbag, and the brisa is actually missing some words. This is what the brisa. This is how we read the brisa. Zahav hareu kekelim. The gold is like utensils, and dinari zahav, whereas gold coins, harein kiksafim, gold coins are like money. And b'medvar mamurim, when do we say gold coins are like money? B'makom shenagu lepartan, where you exchange these gold coins as currency. Then we just give them their actual valuation. That's the position of Rashbag, the Rashbag. We just view them as their exact valuation. But anyway, we see from here, according to this version, that according to this version of it, we're saying that Zav Areu Kikelim. But nevertheless, where it says Mikom Makom Kikelavni by way, it should say it's like its utensil. So the Gemara says Kasha. The Gemara says indeed that's difficulty. We buy the same alternatively. An alternative answer is, how would we read this case? B'dahava pricha, that we would say, okay, let's go back and say you're right. It is like silver utensils and it depreciates. And don't challenge Rabbi Yochanan, even though it's saying here that the silver utensils that gold is like silver utensils and depreciate. Because when does Rabbi Yochanan say they don't depreciate? By large coins, but large pieces of gold. But when it is small pieces of gold, where therefore they break off and they depreciate, then Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would view that. Then Rabbi Yochanan would view it indeed as silver. He would view it as less, and it would be viewed like a silver utensil. That's the first answer. So he says, alternatively, we're saying b'dava pricha. Rav Ashi says b'mamoli, which is like gold dust. The same idea that also it depreciates. So Amar Rabbi Yani says b'samim shel Antiochia, the spices of Antioch, harein kiksafim. That's viewed as money. That was like a currency. The spices of Antioch, that was their currency. And a woman that brought this money into her husband as like an asset, they're viewed as currency, and he would have to pay her back that value plus the additional half of it, or what the rabbis call a third. So that's what he says. Yes, sir.
I just read that.
She is asking a question. Yes, she. A comment.
That back then they said, I just read something that they said that spices were worth more than gold.
Right. So that's what she is. She is telling us from his readings that for a lot of history, spices were worth more than gold. Why were spices worth so much? Because it's not because they wanted to say Borei Minei B'Samim on Motzei Shabbos. It's because spices was the way they preserved meat. So therefore, they needed the spices to preserve the meat. So therefore, it was a preservative, and that's why it was so important. Otherwise, the meat would go bad. So then the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani Amar Rabbi Yochanan Gemoam Shel Arabia, the Arabian camels, Isha Gova Parna Mehem. The woman could collect Parna. Rashi says in this case, we'll see Parna is going to change its meaning. A woman could collect the extra third, or view them basically as currency. Because the Arabian camels were like currency. Amar Papa, Hani Tutvi de Bemersi. So he says these garments from Bemersi, so these garments that they used to sell there, they're like a Rolex watch. Isha Gova Parnamiam. Again, they were used as like a currency. The Amar Papa, Hani Saki Derudia, the Ashli de Kamchunai. So these are the things. These are also things that they used to use. So he says here, what are these? He says these are the sacks from the place called Rudia and the ropes from the place called Kamchunya. A woman could view them as currency, and she could collect the extra money from them. And says Rava, Amarava Meresha Vamina Hani Arnakita Mechuza Isha Gova Parnamehem. At first, I used to say that the woman would collect from these wallets of Mechuza. A woman could collect her parna from him. Here, Rashi says, parna changes its meaning. Now, parva means a ksuva, not the dowry that she brought in, but she could collect the ksuva from the estate of the heirs, even though you could typically only collect that from real estate. But since this became something that was easier for her to collect, that we were saying it was like currency, then she could collect her entire ksuba. My timer, asmachtiu alayu. So because we're going to say that what?
Tongue.
What's tongue?
Or hung and asmachta. Is that what it's saying?
Say it again. Say it again.
Like an asmachta?
Yeah. Well, no. She said, but the word asmachta, and what you're referring to is when you say that it's like support from the Torah. So it's the same word exactly here. It means that she's relying upon them, because the people in the marketplace of Mechuzah, right? It's the same meaning of the word. Since they would be using this currency, like basically they're saying that the valuation of the way the market changes, and so therefore it wasn't real estate. Like already, and what is a woman going to do with, like, you give her a piece of real estate? She doesn't want that. She's going to have to sell it and this. So she much rather have something like the Arnaki de Mechuzah. It sounds like it's like a bank account, or like a treasury bill, like that she can rely upon. So that's what she would rely upon. Even the Chazi de Shakilu Vinafki, because I saw that women would be much preferred to get this cash or whatever this asset is rather than real estate. And when they find a good investment, they find real estate, they'll purchase it. Amina, then I said asam asmachtayu arahu, that it's they rely upon it because they're eventually going to purchase real estate, and really not on the Arnaki of Mechuzah. And so therefore, at first, he thought that they were relying upon the Arnaki. But then he said, no, they were just using the Arnaki to buy real estate, and so then he wasn't ready to make that change. So now we are going to go to the next Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Amasi espito stam. If a person marries off his daughter, and he doesn't indicate when he marries her off how much he's giving her as a dowry, so we say, well, yifchos la mechamishim zuz. Every father has to give her a minimum of 50 zuz. Let's say when he decides to marry her off, he says, I'm not giving her any money for clothing. Well, Yomer Abal, the husband can't say, I'm not going to clothe her until she comes into my home No, he has to clothe her already from the betrothal. He has to pay for her clothes already while she's in her father's house. It's also somebody who marries off an orphan girl, meaning the Gabbai Tzedakah. Rashi says the head of the charity. What do you need something? The head of the charity. Well, he shouldn't give her less than 50 zuz. And if he has more money, you have to give her in the charity coffers. You have to give her more money according to her honor. So Abai says when you give her 50 zuz, 50 zuz pshite, there's two ways of currency. Then there was a Tyrrhenian currency, which was like the U.S. dollar, and then there was all other currencies which were considered to be valued at 1/8 of that. So he says the 50 zuz pshiti. This is the regular. This is the lowest currency. How do you know? That means the Ketani Seifek from the fact that the next clause says, if there is in the wallet or in the coffers of charity, then you give her great honor. My kiss, and what's a kiss? It's a wallet of charity. If you think it's actually 50 Tyrrhenian coins, if she has that money, then why are we giving her? Why are we giving her? It's only the 50. It's the very small amount of money. Let's say there's an orphan boy and an orphan girl that want to collect charity. You first give the girl money, and then you give the boy. Meaning they both want to get. They both want to collect tzedakah. First, you give the boy and then the girl. First you give the girl and then the boy. Because the boy is more comfortable begging for money than the girl. So first you give the boy money, then the girl. But Yasam, you're somewhere on top of 67b, a boy and a girl. Shabol, a boy and a girl that are coming to get married. You marry off the girl first and then the boy. On top of 67b, because the girl will be more embarrassed than the boy if he's not married. If he's not married. And even though it's a mitzvah for the boy to have children, it's not a mitzvah for the girl to have children. Still, we marry off the girl before the boy. Here we go. There's going to be a lot of agadata about charity, some powerful teachings about charity. We're going to go through them quickly, but you could spend your whole life studying and thinking about these issues. Let's say there's an orphan boy that comes to get married. You don't just give him the money to get married. You have to also help him get a room. You give him a bed, furnish an apartment for him. Then you get a marriage. As it says, we just had this recently in the Torah. It says you have to give him that which he is lacking. That's what the pasuk says. Give him that which he is lacking. Is that bias? Give him a house. Asher yachsar is that mita. That's a bed. V'shulchan on a table. Lo is that isha. Then you give him a wife. I'll give him a wife. Tan Rabbanan, ask the rabbis. It says that which you are lacking. What does this mean? That which you are lacking. When a person comes for charity, what are you supposed to give him? Says so you're commanded, according to this approach, you're commanded to give him a living. You don't have to make him wealthy. That which he is lacking, even if he's lacking a horse to ride on and a servant to run before him. This seems like an extravagance. You need to give him a horse to run in front of him, but that's what he's lacking. They said about Hillel the elder, that he ben tovim echad susar kovalav, that there was once a poor person who came from a very good family, and Hillel bought him a horse to ride upon, and a slave or a servant to run before him. Now Hillel himself was very poor. Remember, Hillel had to go and sit on the rooftop to hear the shir being taught from the yeshiva. He couldn't pay the tuition, but he bought for this person a servant to run in front of the horse. Extravagance, a sign of wealth. One day the guy didn't show up. The servant didn't show up. It was hard finding help then, so he couldn't find somebody to run in front of the horse. The Ratzal fun of Shloshim Million. Hillel himself ran in front of the horse, saying, "Make way for the horse." It shows that even though Hillel himself didn't need somebody to run in front of his horse, he felt that this person did. There was one person in the Galilee there was one town there that they bought for a poor man who was used to the finer things in life. They bought for him from Tzipori a litra basar. A litra basar is approximately a pound of meat every day. So Gemara says, litra basar my rabusa. Well, this is not such an unusual story. Okay, they bought him lunch every day. Big deal. 1 pound of meat. So what does that mean? So Amar Afuna, litra basar mishal ofos. No, they bought him from bird meat, which was in those days more expensive. You buy a zema, litra basar mamish. No, they bought him. They took a pound of coins and used that to buy the meat. Rav Ashi says, no, I'll give you a different reason what was so special. Also, there was a small village. Bekol Yoma have a to us. No, that was the whole kunz was there, but that was a whole village, and they didn't have any use for this meat. So every day that they would slaughter the animal, the rest of the animal would be lost because they were just giving this guy his one pound of meat. The person came to Rabbi Nechemia and he said to Rabbi Nechemia, he needs money. So Rabbi Nechemia said, well, what do you normally eat for dinner every day? He says, Basar shamein v'yayin yashein. He says, I eat meat that's very fatty, expensive meat, and old wine, expensive wine. So Rabbi Nechemia says, listen, I eat lentils. I don't eat that every day for dinner. So this guy, the poor man, he started eating lentils with Rabbi Nechemia. Mace. He couldn't handle it. He died. Amar. So Rabbi Nechemia said, He says, woe to this man that Nechemia killed him. He was harming himself. But the Gemara said, you should have been harder. Adarabah, you should have been harder. Nechemia. Shahargu was that. You should have said, woe to Nechemia. Nechemia killed this man. That's what you should have said. You killed him. And so, I say, the Gemara says, Al Takzim, don't be such an exaggerator. This guy, at the end of the day, he shouldn't have been such a mafunak. He shouldn't have been such a, as we say, like, so spoiled. And he could have eaten the lentils. Even though Nechemia said, I killed him, but he wasn't as guilty as the Gemara would suggest. There was another guy who came to Rava. By the way, these stories, they tell a story, then they tell a contradictory story, then tell another one. So when it comes to charity, it's always complex. There isn't like each story is not the same one as the earlier one. So you have to try and figure out the distinction between the stories. There was a guy who came, a poor man came to Rava. He says, Bamata Soed. He says, what do you do? What do you need to eat? I need a fatty bird and some old wine. He says, but you're going to hurt the community. The community needs the money, and this is what you want the community to buy you, fatty birds? So the guy says, this guy had it all. He had his answer ready. He said, you think I'm eating from you? No. This is all from God. I'm not eating from you. The Tanina. God gives them bread in its time. God is the one who decides. God gives us all our money. And this is not coming from you. This is coming from God. And meanwhile, Rava's sister showed up. He hadn't seen her for 13 years. And she brought him, it was like a Hasidic Maisa. She brought him a fatty piece of wine, a fatty piece of bird, and old wine. Amar Mai Dekama. And he says, and so when she shows up in front of him, Rava says to his heart, what is this that's going on here? Amar Le, Rava said to the poor person, he says, this is it. I spoke to you too much, you're correct. And this is a sign from God. Let's say that the guy has no money, but he doesn't want to take money from the tzedakah. So no thing will we give him as a loan. And afterwards we say, you know what? It's just a gift. We first give you a loan, and then we say, you know what? Don't pay me back. That's Rabbi Meir's position. Chachamim say, no, we give it to him as a gift, and then if he doesn't want to take it, we give it to him as a loan. So with Shumatana, the Gemara says he's not going to take it. The Gemara says no. I'm a rabbi of Tocha with Shumatana. We first say as a gift, Yesho. So that next thing, and then we give it to him as a loan. Yesho ve'ino roto esparnis. Let's say he has money. So the Gemara says, let's say he has money. Ve'ino roto esparnis, but he doesn't want to spend the money on himself. He's frugal, so he's living on the street like a beggar, but he has money. Knows the law of Shumatana, then we give it to him as a gift, and then we come back and we take the money from him. The Gemara says, he's not going to give it to you. After he's dead, we tax the estate and we say, we keep an accounting and we just take it from the estate. But by the way, it's more common than you think. Shimon says, let's say he has money and he doesn't want to take money from charity. We don't listen to him. We give him the money from charity. Excuse me, just the opposite. He has money, but he doesn't want to take money from charity. Excuse me. He has money, but he doesn't want to use his own money. He wants to take from charity. We don't listen to him. We don't care. We let him die. Let's say he has no money and he doesn't want to take money. We say give a pawn and then take it. So he thinks that charity has his pawn, but really nobody wants his pawn. We just want him to take the charity. Tan Rabbanan, the verse says, Havet Tavitenu. So what do we do from this verse? Havet, give him a loan. This refers to somebody who has no money and he doesn't want to take charity. We give it to him as a loan. First, we give him the money as a loan. And then we give it to him as a gift. Tavitenu, this refers to somebody who has money but doesn't want to use his own money. So we give it to him as a loan, as a gift, and then we take it back from him after he dies. That's Rabbi Yehuda. It says if he has money, doesn't want to spend it, let him die. We don't care. What do I do with that extra verse? The Torah speaks in the language of man. Now we see some of the most powerful Agadah in all of Shas. I got to talk Mar Ukva. So several stories about Mar Ukva. I don't know if we're going to finish all of them today, but we'll get started on the Agadah of Mar Ukva. Mar Ukva, Hava Anya B'Shibibuse. There was a poor man in Mar Ukva's neighborhood. Every day Mar Ukva used to send him 400 zuz. B'Tzinura Didashi would stick it through the hole in the door when the door was on the hinge. Because he didn't want the man to see him. He was giving him the 400 zuz every day. He didn't want the man to see him. That one day the man said, let me see who's doing this nice thing for me. So he wants to know who's giving him the charity. That day, that day Mar Ukva was going to the base medrash. His wife came with him. Why was she going with him to the base medrash? Was she learning in the base medrash with him? She was just problem with stomach. She was just walking with him. But maybe she really wanted to go in and study. But now the poor man saw that Mar Ukva was coming to the door. He went out after them. So Mar Ukva and his wife ran away. The man was going to see them. He was going to discover who Batman was. Right? They had these big ovens, the walk-in ovens back then. And the ashes were shoveled away, but still, it was still hot on the floor. Mar Ukva's feet started to burn from the hot surface. His wife said to him, Shakol karech osiv akarai. Take your legs and put them on top of my legs. My feet are not burning. Mar Ukva's wife, a miracle was happening. Her feet were not burning. Mar Ukva was very upset. He was sad. He said, she says, why are you Zocha to this miracle? Are you Zocha? And I'm not meriting to have such a miracle. She said to him, I give better charity than you. Why? You give cash on the shechichna begave the besa umikarva an yasi. I'm always in my house, and they come to me, and what do I give them? I give them bread. I give them food, so they don't have to go to the store and buy with it. So I'm giving them the hot meal, so I'm better. Mara says, "My kuai." Why was Mar Zutra going to such extent that they wouldn't see what he was doing? Mar Zutra, Bar Tuvi, Amarav, Amri, Amravun, Bar Bizlam, Mar Shimon Chasidim, Amar Yocham, Mishum, Mishum Yochai. Noachol Adam Sheyim Sor Atzmo Tok Kivshan Aish. A person should throw themselves into a fiery furnace rather than embarrassing this man. Even though this man says, I want to know. I don't mind being embarrassed. I want to know who's helping me. No, we don't care that you don't mind being embarrassed. We can't embarrass you. What's the source for this? Because Tamar was going to allow herself to be killed rather than revealing that Judah was the one who actually had made her pregnant. That goes back to Genesis chapter 38. I'm just giving you the highlight there. Check it out. You'll see the story. Tamar was going to allow herself to die rather than to embarrass Judah. So we'll stop here. Because I promised Daniel, who came today, that we're going to have to get him home.